Two Chef Mission is a local family-run business founded by husband and wife team Tony and Melissa Batto Shepherd. I'm speaking with Tony to learn about how they apply their combined 20 years of experience to create personalized menus for each of their clients. Tell me about yourself and your business.
So, as you said, my name's Tony. I have been working in the culinary industry for, it's coming up on probably 14 years or more. I jumped into it when I was about 17, right out of high school. Worked for some big companies like Cheesecake Factory and Romano's, and even working my way up to Disney, where I met my lovely wife. And we just really clicked. And, when we left at Disney, we decided we wanted to do something for the community. We wanted to be able to kind of educate more and bring families closer and around the table to be able to experience like healthier meals, and just really overall a better joy around the table.
And how did the idea for Two Chef Mission first come out?
So it was probably in early 2017. We were just kind of sitting down at home. She had just left Disney. So we were just like, okay, we've got some savings. Like we can kind of figure out like what we want to do next. And we were doing like private events, just for like some of my family members. And I mean, we were doing events of upwards of 25 to 30 people where they'd come, we'd create a whole menu, make a private dinner. And I mean, it was just a really big event when we would do it. And it was a lot of fun. And our hobby, like one of our main hobbies is cooking. So we love food and we've always loved food. So being able to see the joy and see the family just come together and just have these great discussions and, conversations around our food. Like we always just felt so happy about it. So we're like, you know what, we're doing this for my family already. Why don't we just try to do this for, other families? And even here locally or families vacationing into Orlando. And basically from there, that was our jumping off point to start Two Chef Mission.
Do you have kids?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
How old are they?
We've got two kids. So we have one who's going to be, he's going to be 4 this year in October, actually. And then we have our second was born in January of 2021. So he's going to be 2 this coming January. So that's been a lot of fun. Really cool to be able to see them kind of grow up and see them kind of grow into their own personalities. And even now, our almost 4-year-olds really excited and wanting to be involved in the kitchen. So like when we're working and like we're just doing simple stuff at home, he'll go and grab his step stool and he's like, I want to come and help. I want to come and help. And so he'll try to open up the gate and just walk into the kitchen and just hang out with us and try to help us even when it's like making breakfast or something.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And then you all just eat together at the table?
Yeah, absolutely. So we end up we'll make our breakfast, either it be like eggs, potatoes, and sausage. We'll go around our dining room table, and for the most part, that's where we share. I'd probably say about 80% of our meals. There's some small times where we're, just sitting in the living room and we're like, all right, TV's on, the kids are watching a movie, we can just hang out here. And everybody's relaxed. But for the most part, we try to make a point to, hey, guys, it's dinner time or it's breakfast time or lunchtime. Let's go ahead and get around the table and sit down.
And how has the business evolved since you first started? And how do you incorporate having your whole family?
So that has been huge. A big part of that is also back in 2020, so year of COVID, I started working again at Disney, and basically I was one of the affected cast members where I was furloughed for a few months, got brought back, and then was given an option of either changing my position within the company from being in the culinary industry to something else. And I just didn't feel comfortable with that because for me, food is part of me. And so I decided to go ahead and take the layoff with them. But from that point, it really kind of exploded our business. And even now, with our 4-year-old helping us in the kitchen or even helping on deliveries, some mornings he'll just come with me. He'll walk up to the doors, knock on them, talk to the clients. And it's really cool to be able to have that aspect of family life in our own business where it's not just like, hey, yeah, you're buying from, this huge $1 million conglomerate or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a small family that is being there together.
Yeah, that's so cute.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
What tips do you have for those who are interested in but a little bit hesitant about meal planning?
So with that, and I've been thinking about this a lot because there are even times where me and Melissa, we even have to really think about like, okay, what are we going to plan for the week for our meals? Earlier today, she ended up pulling out like 4 salmon steaks. So we know, okay, that's going to be about 2 meals. And then a pork roast. So we're planning on doing something with that. That'll probably end up encompassing 2 or 3 meals because of how big it is. And for the most part, it's really figuring out like what you and your family really like as far as foods, flavor profiles, especially if you have little ones, what they're comfortable eating. Because I know many families that they have picky little ones, picky eaters, and that's fine. It's just being able to adjust and see, okay, well, what ingredients am I going to be using this week for this meal, and how can I spread those ingredients to other meals to be able to kind of keep the budget down when you're going shopping? Because at the end of the day, if you use similar ingredients across multiple meals, it's going to save you so much.
Mm-hmm. I know when I was little, I guess I was one of those picky eaters, but I got that way a little older because they would just cook rice and beans almost every single day. And I started getting so tired of it. I'm I'm just not eating dinner today. I'll just go to my room and so my grandfather was the cook. And so he started just doing different things, and then I started eating again.
And I think that's really it's a really good point to make, is that if you're pigeonholing yourself into the same like 2 or 3 recipes, it's going to get stale. It's going to get tired. Your kids are going to be tired of it. We try to make it exciting and either do different flavors or, do plays of different types of food. Again, being a personal chef, of course, me and Melissa, we understand and know more recipes. And a lot of what we're doing is trying to be able to help families. So we also do like meal delivery services where we create a menu for them, and basically they can pick like 4 or 5 items, and we'll cook everything, prepare it, and then deliver it to them where it's already been refrigerated and ready to go, and all they have to do is reheat it. We're also working on releasing online cooking courses to be able to teach people like across a video, one-on-one, so to speak, on how to prepare certain meals or certain items that we've done in the past.
What are some of the misconceptions about meal planning?
I think a lot of people, there's a lot of misconception with, like you were saying earlier, that you grew up eating a lot of rice and beans. So
throw some ketchup in there.
Exactly. But I feel like there's a lot of misconception that you have to eat basically the same meal for 5 meals. And that's not the case, because you can do, let's say, a half a cup of rice, which will end up giving you basically 2 servings of rice. And then you can season that a specific way, and you can do another half a cup to give you other rice and other seasonings. So if you cook in smaller batches, you can actually create more variety in your meals, as opposed to being stuck in the same 2 or 3 recipes.
So I know my husband is the cook in our household.
Yeah.
And he likes to do the big batches of stuff.
Yeah.
That would be like 2 days of dinner.
Exactly.
Or like one day of dinner and then leftovers for lunch. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then if no one eats all it for lunch, it ends up becoming dinner too.
Right. And that's honestly, it's a great thing to be able to do that. And like, the fact that your husband's already thinking ahead, like, okay, this could be, a dinner or even a lunch for the next day. I would say for sure with a lot of people who are, let's say, have more like office work or work in an office environment where they do have like their specific break rooms and like have their own microwaves, that would be great, because they have their dinner, they already have their lunch for the next day, and in fact, they could just basically pre-package it and then have it ready to go for the following day. I know that I had done that for a while, even when working out at like Disney or other companies that I'd worked for in the past.
Yeah, another thing we've done with that too, that is if he does like one big batch, let's say on Wednesday, and then another big batch on Thursday, then that's like dinner for the next 3 days.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you get to like one day you have this leftover or that leftover. Yeah.
And it's funny because you can actually do that a lot with soups. Chilies are very well known to be able to do that just because it's really hard to make a small batch of chili where you only get like 1 to 2 servings. You basically are always going to have about 4 to 5 servings of chili when you make a batch. So that's definitely one of those meals that you're expecting to have more left over. You could even do like tomato soup, and then you can have like grilled cheese, or you can do a little bit slightly different flair and then go with like a quesadilla or just like a turkey sandwich or something different to accompany that tomato soup. But and you can even make like smaller serving sizes of the tomato soup to go with those sandwiches for let's say lunch or dinner. So that's also a good idea where you're creating like larger batch meals, like you're saying your husband does sometimes.
Yeah, but I'll say what doesn't make it boring when my husband does it is that he really is making different recipes like all the time. Because we used to do like one of those meal service deliveries, and we just kept all the cards. And so we have like almost like 50 different cards. So he's like just going through or he'll just research a new recipe or something like that. That's always something different. But on that note too, also we really do, I think, spend a lot of money on food. At least I think we do. I think we average for a family of 4, I want to say maybe $200 a week. Is that a lot, or is...
I would say it's probably a little bit higher than what me and Melissa probably end up spending.
Big boys.
Yeah, I was about to say,
2 big boys.
I was like, I could imagine your boys are bigger than ours, especially with the fact that like ours are very, very young, and our youngest is now just getting into the stage of starting to like eat his own like small portions. So when he starts getting older, I can imagine, $200 would probably be around an average payment. There are other services like where you can order like meats for bulk sending, where they end up sending you like a box of meat for the month. And I mean, we have one of those services, and I think we only pay, but it's supposed to be set for 2, but it's like 120 or something for the month. But we know we have like salmon. I think last time we got scallops and shrimp, and we just got a lot of different varieties of meats, and we actually like the quality of meat that they provide.
And do you freeze that and then defrost it when you're ready to cook it?
Exactly. So it comes in frozen. They actually have it packaged with some dry ice. So it's ready to go. You can just take it, throw it in your freezer, and then pull out what you want or what you're anticipating that you're going to be using for that week. So that's been a huge benefit for us, because now we're like, okay, now we're not having to go out and specifically spend at the grocery store, whatever the grocery store prices are right now for cuts of meat, because I know with everything right now, everything's kind of gone up in price. So it's just really depending on what you're looking for. Yeah.
Are there any other tips that people could use to lower their grocery bills or the cost of ingredients?
Definitely shop. If you can find it locally grown, that's really good. Also, the quality of the produce or even meat is going to be better if you can find it locally grown. And seasonality. So look within what's coming into season, as opposed to like something like right now with a lot of conventional farming. Basically, you can find zucchini and squash, tomatoes, all those things all year long. But if you look at the prices, for the most part, you'll see them kind of fluctuate higher and lower. When they're definitely lower is when they're in season, and that's the best time to be able to get them, because you're going to save money, you're going to get better quality fruit and veggies, and it's just really it's gonna help in the long run.
So how do people, you mentioned if the prices are lower, but how do you know if at that time that the prices are lower? Is there anything that you could see at the grocery store that tells you what's in season?
Right. So I know here in
for
Orlando,
those who don't garden.
Yeah, exactly. That's another really good tip if you have that green thumb. I know we've kind of fallen down on that a little bit. We keep trying. Our herbs really stay green, which is great because we use those a lot. But other than that, like our veggies have kind of like wilted off to the side. So we're trying to restart that garden again. But I would definitely say and it's something I've been known to do, is just like save a tab online of like, okay, what vegetables, what fruit are coming into season, and like what seasons are specific ones in. Also, if you go to specific grocery stores, you can actually find them where they rotate things out, and they have more variety of fruit and vegetables, which is great because that ends up helping your meals be a little bit more exciting, so you're not stuck with the same 5 ingredients.
Yeah.
Another one that I'm thinking of right now is farmers markets. I know specifically here, or in Winter Park, they do work with SNAP, where you can actually convert certain amount of SNAP, certain amount of your cash on SNAP to being able to basically doubling it up. So, for example, I think it was in Winter Park Farmers Market, it was like $40 was the maximum, but then they basically gave you $40, so you had like $80 to spend. So it's finding farmers market like that too.
Oh, wow. That's really good.
Yeah.
Okay. And you did mention that you have herbs that are green still. And I know that's expensive, but it really does add a great flavor to your food. Mm-hmm. So if you could grow your own, and that is the easiest thing to grow, where other vegetables, because you could grow it in a little box.
Exactly.
Just anywhere around your house, where if you're trying to, like you said, things are wilting. It's Florida heat in the summer. It's not a good time to really grow.
No, it's so hard in the summer. And we've seen some gardens. We take a walk around our neighborhood basically every day. So we see some houses that actually have gardens in their backyard that are visible from the street. And they look amazing. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so jealous of those gardens. But for the most part, like the herbs that we have that are really good, parsley, oregano, basil, they're all really hardy, and they basically will fight against the Florida sun. And as long as it's like partially shaded, areas that you're growing them in, if you're growing them in your yard or even your patio, if you're in an apartment, they'll grow pretty well. And you just got to make sure to water them.
Do you have any special programs that you would like to share from your company?
So one of the big programs that we're working on growing is our online cooking class. And we're doing that specifically to help families that, may vacation to Orlando and have used our services, that, they miss some of our services. We get messages from them every once in a while, like, I need to plan another vacation because I really want your food, which is great to hear. So we're doing that to be able to help provide that extra level of service to them, where we can even teach them like what we're doing at home, or what we're doing in the kitchen, to be able to provide these really good meals, flavored meals, like huge, and it's a huge value, I would say, to be able to have that, because once they were to pay for the course, they basically have it entirely, so they can just go in, do it at their own pace. They don't have to just sit down and go through a 3 or 4 hour course to try to learn everything and take notes. Like we really break it down. We work on trying to accommodate allergies as well as best we can with all of our recipes, because our background in professional kitchens, we've learned how to be able to do that, which has been great. And then other than that, we're just really wanting eventually to get down to a place that we can actually buy our own farm and basically hold like educational classes and maybe even courses right out of the farm, and have some like a kitchen on site where we can have families come out, or eventually maybe even like a school class can come out and like learn, like, oh hey, this is where your vegetables grow, this is how they grow, and like kind of work it into teaching them like, hey, your food dish doesn't come from a grocery store. Like there's a lot more to it, and there's a lot more of how it's made, and we want to be able to do that eventually. I think that's on our 10-year plan, to be able to get that going.
Yeah, I like to joke, pizza doesn't grow in trees.
Exactly. Oh my God.
If you're enjoying this show, please subscribe to our channel and follow our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter accounts.